Hello and welcome to Ask Aaron, the next season. My name is Aaron Holm and I'm the manager of consumer engagement for Ottobock North America. Thank you so much for joining us today. And there's an opportunity for the viewers to type in your questions towards the bottom of the screen, and we will circle back later in this episode to get those addressed. Anything that we do not address today, we certainly will follow up with you on. But I am really excited. We've been planning for this relaunch of Ask Aaron for several months, and I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, Steve Martin. Steve is a U.S. veteran and former state trooper who was injured in Afghanistan when a roadside bomb was detonated. As a result of the blast, Steve eventually lost both legs below his knee. In a few weeks, Steve will be a part of a team that will bike across America, coast to coast. And another member of this team that we'll talk about is blind cyclist Shawn Cheshire. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, thanks, Aaron. Glad to be here today.
Good to see you, man. This is incredible. As I said, when we were introduced to this earlier, this initiative that you're taking on, or whatever you call it, I was just absolutely amazed. So I'm so excited to talk to you. But backing up a little bit, talking about your time in the service, if you don't mind, I always wonder what the motivation is. It was a family thing to join? Were your parents or your mom, your dad in the service? What drove you towards military?
You know, my dad did 3 tours in Vietnam. Both my grandfathers served the duration of World War II. You know, they went in after Pearl Harbor and never came back to the United States till the war was finished. I was in college, and my brother, I'm the middle of 5 boys, and my brother that's just older than me, so the next second in line, called me and said, "Hey, let's go in the Army." I was like, well, I really hate college, so why not? Yeah, let's go. And so I go down and meet the recruiter. I think I could have gone in without him because I took no convincing. I took no recruiting. I just, where do I sign? And I walked back out. I go back home and I call my brother. You know, it's before cell phones or anything. This is in 1990. And I called my brother and said, "All right, I leave on this date." And he goes, "Yeah, I changed my mind." He didn't go, and he's been an attorney for 25 years now.
You still bring that up, I bet.
I just at family dinners and get-togethers and holidays, and
anytime there's a commitment.
Yeah, anytime my brother just happens to be within earshot, I'll bring it up. No, it's no big deal. It happened so long ago. You know, it's just one of those things that we just moved on. You know,
I saw the world.
Yeah. Saw pieces of it I never thought I'd see, and just learned different things. Had great, made friends that I'm still friends with to this day. You know, we're talking 31 years later, and we're still buddies. We still, send messages and call each other, and things like that. I only live near one, but the rest of us, we get together. When I run races in Vegas, I have a guy I went through basic training with that. He's always at the finish line waiting for me to cross the line. And no matter how slow I am, he's always there. So,
and you mentioned that you served in, I believe it was Korea for a while with one of our colleagues at Ottobock.
I did. In 1991, we're in Korea, and one of your employees, Terry Raychecks, I'll say hey to Terry. We were in the same squad for a year over in Korea at Camp Humphreys, and then several years ago, it was one of those things. It's like, wait, Terry's with Ottobock, and
wow,
so it was really neat to kind of have that connection, and it was just we talked about, I think we talked about a month ago.
Okay.
Just caught up. It had been actually a little bit since we'd actually talked to each other, not just messages on social media and things like that. But so we actually hopped on the phone and caught up a little bit.
Yeah, well, great. Terry's our technical services manager in Salt Lake City. So that, I just thought that was a great story, small world stuff that you two served together.
It is small world stuff,
in Korea. But can we talk a little bit about your injury? You were actually out of the military as a civilian. Were you working as like a government contractor? Or?
I was actually I went back over to Afghanistan with the State Department and was embedded back in an infantry unit. Amazing group of folks. 5 different National Guards, active duty Army, Navy, and we were all thrown together as a team. And, there was no difference in what we were doing. It just basically was a difference of where my pay was coming from the State Department versus the Department of Defense. So I'm in uniform. I'm in the Humvee. We're training. We're eating. We're fighting. We're bleeding. Everything every day. Except I was no longer a service member when I was wounded. So it's as weird as it sounds. I get sometimes pushed into this gray area. I'm a combat wounded civilian.
Wow. Okay. You want to talk a little bit about the story itself, the injury and recovery, and you didn't lose your legs as a result impact of the blast immediately, correct?
Correct. I went through
Yeah.
14 months of limb salvage, but eventually all those surgeries are just you just couldn't piece them back together. So our gunner, Staff Sergeant Michael Downing, he lost both legs instantaneously. Right, the bomb basically went off under his feet and under my left leg, and I was blown out of the Humvee. It was a bad day. Obviously, it's turned into a pretty good life, and I was when I started to kind of come back online and things, now there's sounds and sights, kind of like rebooting a computer, because I was very confused. I was really embarrassed. I thought I'd fallen asleep. We'd been attacked twice the day before, and then we'd been attacked multiple times throughout the night. So not much sleep, more like a nap. And then we still had to get up and do the mission. And I was laying there. All of a sudden, I realized that wasn't I just in a Humvee? Why am I on the ground? And then I looked down, and I was looking at the bottom of my left boot. My left leg was turned all the way, 180 degrees back up. My left boot was almost touching my hip. And things were hectic. A lot of shooting, a lot of screaming. I don't know if it's real, if it's something that my brain has convinced me is real. Hearing the moaning and everything, and then realizing that it was me laying on the ground moaning. And I don't know if that was real or something I've created over the years. And I told myself that, I think I heard somebody moaning, and I was the one who was unconscious laying there. I was blown out of the Humvee, and our team did an amazing job. I mean, it's one of the reasons I'm here today. There's, they formed a perimeter. They got us out of there, and they formed got us. Oh, there was another team that was nearby. We had just passed them going the other direction, and they came back. So now we've got more soldiers, fighting off the ambush that followed. And the weirdest feeling, I think, through the whole thing was the sensation of being picked up off the ground on a stretcher and just placed on the hood of another Humvee, and just thinking, I'm going to die. This is it. If it did this to me when I'm inside the Humvee, what's it going to be like when I'm outside the Humvee? Because there's always a second explosion. There's always a second IED in that area. And, Blackhawks came in and picked us up. It took about 40 minutes to get the Blackhawk to us and from Bagram. Like I said, it was a tough day. And, but the medevac crews that came in and got us, I still keep in touch with the flight crew of the helicopter that actually flew me out, and I love keeping in touch with them. The nurse on the helicopter, Pam Paquette, we've kept in touch for 13 years now.
That's very cool. That is obviously embedded in their mind as well, and to hear from someone like you that's come around and doing what you're doing today is just phenomenal for both parties.
Yeah. So we went through and 14 months of just getting fat, getting
eating
out of
good.
shape,
eating good. We talked about that.
My mom was an amazing cook, and after I was wounded, I was always either getting ready for surgery or recovering from surgery. So my mom was out here as my caregiver, and I'm laying there on the couch all blown up, and just always in pain. And mom's like, well, I think a steak and baked potato, or scrambled eggs and bacon, but we'll put a strawberry in there. So it was
a temporary solution, right?
Right. And so I'd initially there was one doctor said, have you considered amputation? And my family got really angry. No, we're not taking off his legs. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's take them off. Because I knew what I had. I had a life of pain and medicine, and so when the decision was finally made, and it was not a hard decision. Some people say it is for them. For me, I knew what I had. I was never going to walk, run, do the things I wanted to do. And the surgeon that kept trying to repair me, his name's Anthony Rohr, here in the Phoenix area. And I love the guy because he did everything he could to try to save me so I could walk on, the two legs God gave me. And it just wasn't going to happen. But he knew that. And it wasn't just, let's keep going and keep going, no matter how long this drags out. He realized that we're going to have to take these legs. But he told me there's no guarantee that you could be debilitating phantom pain. There's no guarantee that this will get better. And it did. It got much better. I lost both legs. I actually walked into the hospital, and 4 days later rolled out in a wheelchair as a bilateral ballooning amputee.
You shared a compelling story with me about putting your feet in the sand in San Diego, I think, after decisions had been made. Do you mind sharing that?
Yeah, I'm from San Diego, and I like it, but it's a little spendy to live there sometimes now. If you're not already established. And I was in February of 2009 when I first really started considering, it's just a never-ending stream of surgeries, and my mom drove me out to San Diego, and I just wanted to put my feet in the sand at the beach because we always went there growing up, and I wanted to see if it meant as much to feel the sand with my toes and not be able to stand because I was in my wheelchair. I couldn't get down into the beach or anything. I could go right to the edge, like next to the sidewalk. And I realized that I could still feel the sand if I had prosthetic legs and I fell on my face in the sand. The sand's going to feel the same. So it wasn't a matter of which body part felt the sand. It was a matter that I could get out in the sand with prosthetics versus just sitting in my chair and moving my feet, because I never moved 8 of my toes again. The only toes I moved after I was wounded were my 2 big toes. And as an amputee yourself, I'm sure I don't know if you went through this, but when I woke up from surgery after the legs were amputated, the first thing I did was the relief of moving my 8 toes that I had not moved in 14 months, because the muscles and the nerves are still firing. They're still there. I had no control over those toes. They were enormously swollen, and I never moved them again because the bones and everything were just shattered from the explosion. So that was a big decision to that part. And then when it came time to actually make it, like I said, it was a no-brainer for me.
And all the pain and discomfort. I mean, you obviously had a recovery time that you were dealing with some pain and discomfort, phantom pains probably, but after how many months until you were taking your first steps in prosthetics?
I lost my legs November 3rd of 2009, and I was walking a little bit in the rehab hospital in February.
Nice.
I did my first day of physical therapy was January 10th of 10. And by February 1st of February, I was standing up and actually taking steps. I won't say unassisted. I had a great physical therapist named Lonnie Coughlin, and taught me how to walk, taught me how to run, and just was merciless because all I wanted to do was go back to work. And my physical therapy was geared toward my profession. It was getting knocked down and being able to stand back up, maybe preventing myself from being knocked down. And he was amazing the way he did these things.
And you went back to work, but you eventually became a state trooper, or what was that transition?
I was an Arizona State Trooper, and when I was wounded, the department was amazing. They never told me I couldn't do this anymore. I was welcome, and they never blinked about letting me stay. It was just gonna be a matter of what would I be able to do. After I was wounded, I sat in the armory. They would, someone would come to work or come out to the house and throw me in my wheelchair in a car, and I would just sit in the armory. They assigned me to the armory, working for my best friend, and who's a sergeant in there. And I think I really just sat there and drooled on things, because of all the medicine and all the medication I was taking.
Sure.
And but it was important to me mentally because I wasn't just sitting on my couch or sitting in a hospital bed. I could hear the radio, the noise in the back, the sounds, the smells, people coming in and just to talk to me. And it was so important mentally. And then after I lost my legs, I was working as a detective, and all I wanted to do was get back into uniform. So 1 year, 2 weeks and 2 days after I lost my legs, actually was my first day back in uniform. It was too soon. I actually ended up leaving, going back and doing more therapy. I think it was all ego. I made it back. And I really didn't have the mobility that I probably should have.
Sure.
And I went back off the road for a while, but then I did end up going back to patrol, and I was the first double amputee patrol officer in Arizona, and only a handful in the United States. The cool thing is there are now two that have gone through the academy since I've retired. Um, they're both Marines, but we'll forgive that part. We'll give them the credit that they deserve. But no, they've both gone through the academy. But the amazing part of that is they just not only their dedication and their desire to serve or to continue serving. They're both wounded by IEDs. Is the fact that agencies are no longer afraid of hiring somebody like that, and the fact that they just, hey, here you go. It's totally up to you. Either you can do it or sink or swim. And
Right.
these guys are doing it, and it's amazing.
And they're testing every year, just like everybody else is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to pass that. That's awesome. What got you into, how were you introduced to the adaptive sport? You've run marathons, half marathons. You've done some incredible competitive. I mean, you went from eating good, right? From
Eating too
mom
much good, yeah.
to running, I think you said 18 marathons and a bunch of half marathons. And that's a heck of a,
It's a big jump, because considering before I was wounded, I'd done exactly one half marathon.
okay.
That's the long, I ran to stay in shape, so I figured I didn't need to run more than 4 or 5 miles ever. I thought anybody who ran further than a 5K was really, they might need to, a psych eval or something, because
Showing off a little bit.
there's no need to run that far, and it just looks painful. And I'm not exactly built like a distance runner. I'm built like I ran the 400 meters in high school. That was kind of all this, as this mass. That's pretty much all it needed to do. And so I was told multiple times I would never run again. I would never walk again. And again, thanks to Dr. Rohr and my physical therapist Lonnie. But the big thing was my friends and family. They never let me give up. And my next door neighbors, when I was wounded, were both Air Force. I lived right near Luke Air Force Base in west of Phoenix. And one day my neighbor came to me and says, "Hey, we're doing the Baton Death March as a unit, and that's in New Mexico." And I was like, "Well, I know the history of what the Baton Death March is, but what do you mean you're doing the Baton Death March?" Well, it's an event. It's a full 26.2-mile marathon. It's at White Sands, New Mexico, since 1989. They've been doing it every year since 1989 to honor those that the survivors, but the people that didn't make it home from the Baton Death March in World War II. And so we decided to go do. So my very first race as an amputee that I ever did was a full 26.2-mile marathon in March of 2011. So just over right at a year from when I was started walking, I did my first full marathon, and I did it with 4 friends from work that on very short notice decided that, yeah, I'm going to go do a marathon with Steve. And that was kind of the beginning of what's going on. Now, it was miserable. It was terrible. It took me over 11 hours. And the funny part is we weren't even near really the end. It's a brutal race. It's very hot. The terrain is very rugged. There's parts of it that are just ankle deep baby powder sand. And after 20 plus miles, that's just tough to want to walk through, even
20 plus yards.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a tough section of the race. But from mile 8 to mile 13, there's not even a flat spot. It is straight uphill, and
Wow.
it starts on concrete, but then it gets into dirt and sand, and but it's amazing, because every year it's about between 7,000 and say 8,500. I think is the biggest race that I've been in there, and I've done 9 of those. And it's amazing that the remembrance of the folks from Baton, and there's always Baton survivors at the start and finish line. These are folks that were part of the real thing in the Philippines, in 1942, and it's amazing to see them, shake their hands, and understand why we're doing this. And so I had, like I said, I had 4 friends from work that threw on rucksacks, and we 2 of them carried an extra, each carried an extra prosthetic, because I didn't know if my legs would last that long. I was still a new amputee. I didn't know anybody. So for the long introduction to your question, at about mile 6 off in the distance, I see an amputee. And at this point, I know like one other amputee. I don't know any amputees. I'm the only one. And then Mike, who was, lost both his legs in the same event, was still in the hospital. And he's at Walter Reed, and I haven't seen him. I've only seen him once since we were wounded. And I start talking to this amputee, and he hands me a business card, and his name is Kirk Bauer. And he was the executive director of what was then Disabled Sports USA. It's now
Sure.
Move United. And Kirk gives me his card, and we're talking for a while. Kirk lost a leg in Vietnam, and it changed my life. That organization changed my life, and it became a daily thing, trying to make sure I was ready. So in July of 2011, I did my first triathlon. I literally just got on a plane, flew to Hawaii with no training, rented a bike, and did a triathlon. And it was horrible, horrible. My leg came off, before I got to the halfway point. I'm going around the buoy with my left leg tucked under my left arm to keep it from falling to the bottom of the ocean. And then the pedal came off my bike because I wasn't clipping in then. I'd maybe been on a bike for 20 minutes of training before I decided to go do this triathlon. And, pedal came off the bike. I had to flag down a Honolulu PD motorcycle cop. Hey, give me your Leatherman so I can fix my bike. And so it was, after that, I called Kirk. I said, hey, I did a triathlon. And I said, but I really suck at running. And I get an email a couple weeks later, and that organization and Kirk contacted the guy that was the head coach of the U.S. Paralympic track and field team, put him on a plane, flew him down to Phoenix, and taught me how to run. We went to an indoor track and for a week. He said, this is how you run. You need to quit letting your thinking that you still have your legs. The prosthetic running legs are designed a specific way. You need to let them do the work. Quit trying to run as if it's your legs. Run on your prosthetics. His name is Brian Hoddle, and it was great. And from that point on, it was just, all right, how many races can I do? And it just became, I started doing the rock and roll series of races, and I want to run them all.
That phone call of I think that's funny. Your buddy just calls you on the phone and says, let's do something like this. And you jump in, and there's more to that as well. But, on behalf of myself, colleagues at Ottobock, and I'm sure the viewers, thank you very much for your service, military, and as an Arizona State Trooper. We appreciate that very much. And transitioning a little bit here, there's obviously more to this story. And about 3 months ago, your practitioner in Arizona, Mike Pack at Artificial Limb Specialist, introduced me to this.
World's greatest prosthetist, by the way. I may be biased.
That's great. Introduced us to this story, this undertaking, this journey, and an individual who I have not met yet, but Shawn Cheshire. And I have a little bit of background here on Shawn, but Shawn Cheshire joined the U.S. Army in 1994 and served as a helicopter armament systems mechanic for 8 years. Following her years in the service, she became an EMT paramedic, and in 2009, during a snowstorm, she slipped while treating a patient in an ambulance and sustained a traumatic brain injury, which resulted in the total loss of vision. The introduction to parasports ignited her competitive spirit and helped her confront her blindness. She has competed for Team USA in both summer and winter sports, being the first visually impaired female athlete to compete for the U.S. Paralympic Nordic ski team. She began cycling in 2012 and started competing in February of 2013. She has proven to herself to be an elite multi-sport athlete by winning a gold medal in indoor rowing at the 2014 Invictus Games in London. Now focused fully on tandem cycling, Cheshire trains full-time and has made a name for herself in national and international cycling circuit.
Yeah, she's amazing. That's not even a strong enough adjective to describe
Well,
Shawn.
yeah, and I wrote down from her website that she labels herself as a blind athlete and adventure seeker, and I don't even know if that's an adventure seeker.
She doesn't wait for adventure; she creates adventure.
Yeah, tell us what's happening on May 17th in Eugene, Oregon, that you are involved with with Shawn.
So on May 17th, we'll actually be in Florence, Oregon is actually our start point.
Okay.
And I think Eugene is our second or third day in. We will dip our tires from our bikes in the Pacific Ocean and we're just going to start pedaling west until we reach the Atlantic Ocean in the area of Virginia Beach, Virginia. It's going to take us about 2 months is the plan. Now we'll see how accurate our plan is.
And Shawn, who I just read her intro, it mentions that she was tandem biking, but she's not tandem biking on this.
In 2014, Shawn and I sat down and we talked about, hey, let's ride a tandem bike. Come on, the dude with no feet and the blind girl, let's go ride a bike across the United States. And it just, we sat down, we started working on funding, and we had already found a sponsor, and it looked like it was going to be a go. But obviously she has a very busy competitive schedule, and it kind of was, well, no, you need to train, you need to compete, not just go ride your bike for 4,000 miles across, 2 months or however long it was going to take. And it just wouldn't fit in the schedule with her being on Team USA and all the training and competing. And while she was out, kicking butt, winning medals and setting records and things. And so it just kind of got pushed aside. We both obviously went on with, just doing our thing. And 2019, she's taken a break from, being a Paralympian, being a world-class athlete, professionally, not taking a break from being a world-class athlete, just from competing. And she called and said, hey, Jesse and I want to go ride our bikes across the United States. You still want to go? Well, yeah, it's not exactly, I'm not going to give up that chance. I mean, so the one little plot twist different from when we were planning this in 2014 is Shawn is now riding a solo bike. So no tandems. This girl is completely blind, and she rides a regular bike, no modifications whatsoever.
What does that look like? I mean, you're guiding her. You mentioned you're going to have walkie-talkies or obviously some sort of transmission device.
It looks no different from any other cyclist, except sometimes she wears a vest, a high-vis vest that says blind. So we look no different going down the road, which I think it's important. We're trying to raise awareness, but we're trying to also let people know that, we may not look different, but we obviously have some disabilities or whatever phrase people want to use. I'm not offended by that. I have a disability, obviously, but I get to do things regardless of that or because of that. And so Jesse will be in front of her. That's the other part of this team is, the whole team in general, people are giving up months of their lives. We have people that are driving our support truck, driving the RV. We have a person, Mary, that's going to be with us every time, making sure our scheduling is done, that we have food, that every commitment that we need. That way the three of us can just ride the bike, and not have to worry about our laundry getting done, like this. I mean, what we're doing is pretty cool. It's pretty tough, obviously, but we both decided at our age, we may not want to go cross country camping. So we've come up with an RV, and we're going to use that as like a base. It'll go each day to where we plan on ending. So the team is going to be the dedication there. Like I said, Jesse's a college professor in Connecticut. He's been guiding Shawn on these adventures since 2012, I think. But to not only stay on top of his profession, but also to stay physically able to guide Shawn through cross-country skiing, through her world record setting, just destroying the record for the rim-to-rim-to-rim crossing of the Grand Canyon. So you have to stay switched on, because when we're guiding Shawn, and I won't say that I'm guiding Shawn, I'm following Shawn usually in our little team. Jesse rides in front, and we have a Bluetooth speaker attached to the back of his bike. And Shawn just kind of follows it like a bat, just follows that sound as a reference. And then we wear Bluetooth earpieces, and we tell her, hey, we're coming up to a hill, make sure we're getting our gears ready. It's a gradual hill, or it's, a pretty steep hill, or, okay, we're going to be going downhill. And, when we're not just out on the open road, we have to tell her, okay, there's a tree limb hanging down here. We're going to go up here and there's a sharp right turn, or, just a gentle left turn. We have to guide her safely. And to do that, we have to pay attention. You can't just kind of drift off so you don't run Shawn into a guardrail or to a parked car or something. And so we rode, we spent a week riding together in Tucson for the first time in January. And it was great. We just, what we were doing there was a few days. We're getting ready to do this for 2 months, but we have to work together as a team to make sure that we safely get Shawn across the country. Because when we talk about it, she says it's a long time to be scared. It's a long time to be nervous, and
Well,
because
I'm
let's
scared
face
just
it,
I'm listening to this, and
right?
I'm nervous. How do you keep the pace between each other? I mean, one thing is a guardrail's on your right, or cars are on your left, or there's an obstacle on the road, but you're going too fast, you're going too slow. It's constant communications,
constant.
coast to coast.
Yes, coast to coast. It's going to be roughly. It's going to be, if we follow our route that we have mapped out. It's going to be just shy of 4,000 miles.
Unbelievable.
It's
I
going to be a
mean,
challenge.
it's going to be a challenge. Just when you mentioned the solo bike part of it, and I know you got. I mean, there's all kinds of people you mentioned involved with this. You've got a film crew.
We do.
You've got, and that is that a documentary that they're coming?
Yes, there's. I don't want to. I don't know how much I'm supposed to say about that, but there is
Okay.
Something in the works.
Yeah.
It's been going for a while. Some of the other things Shawn has done, and this is going to be part of it. And so I think it'll be interesting to integrate them into the team. We haven't met them yet, but with Mike driving the truck and Riker, Shawn's son, is part of the team, helping out, and well, we have two retired Army first sergeants that are going to be responsible for our support vehicles. One driving a truck that'll be behind us, trying to give us a little cover, and plus he'll have all of our any extra supplies that we need. So we're not going to be loaded down with all the extra gear. That some of the people, there's about 1,000 people a year roughly that do this trip.
Yeah.
But some of them do it in organized tours. Some of them do it completely solo, unsupported. We're going supported just because we do have some issues that we may not ride at the pace that other teams do.
Sure.
And we're making all of our own arrangements. We're stopping to visit schools for the blind. I'm hoping to make sure that when we're in Louisville that we swing by the Ottobock facility there and visit with the folks at the warehouse there, and
Sure. Yeah.
and learn how these things go out. I'm gonna be wearing a set of Ottobock feet for the ride. I'm gonna be wearing the Talios,
Nice.
making sure that we'll get some bike miles on the Talios for a few months here.
Yeah, Mike Pack just put those on you. What do you, I mean, you wore every foot out there, I think. What's the response for what you're doing every day? You're training and you're biking and
I like them. I like them so far. This is actually my first Ottobock foot. I love the fact that they and for amputees they'll understand this. The rollover is very smooth. It's not herky jerky. It's very soft, or it's very natural. I guess is the word I'm looking for. When I'm walking through terrain, flat ground, going uphill, downhill, I haven't had any issues with it. I've been fortunate enough to test as like a beta tester for multiple sets of feet, and it's cool to be able to do that because I'm a fairly big guy. I'm 6'1", 225, depending on which legs I have on, and I like to run marathons, climb mountains, whatever the case is. I will destroy a set of feet fairly quickly, and I've tested feet where I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't wear this across the parking lot, and then I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait to wear these. So there's been the full gamut, and I'm like that with the Talios. I've enjoyed wearing the Talios so far, and I've only had them a few weeks, but I am definitely, this is the foot that I'm wearing on the ride. It's the only set of legs I'm taking with me, and so we're gonna put it to its paces. I mean, I know it already has been. It's out, but
Yeah.
we're gonna I'm going to abuse it just because of my size and what I'm doing.
Good. We love to hear that you're
Yeah.
going to use them and abuse them. What does training look like for your team? You said you met the team a little bit. I mean, nothing obviously compared to where you're going and what you're doing, but how do you train for something like this? Are you personally biking X miles every day, or what do you do?
We've all been riding. I actually hurt my leg pretty badly. I hurt what's left of my right leg pretty badly. My riding all of a sudden went from a couple hundred miles a week to almost zero the last few weeks, and it was a little nerve wracking. I'm good. We've taken care of it finally. It was touch and go whether I was going to be able to go or not. But I'm 100% back in. I'm going for a long bike ride today. I say long. I mean, I'm gonna go out and ride like 30, 40 miles because around my neighborhood, there's good bike areas, but it's all flat. So if I really want to push myself, I go to the gym. I get on in the spin room, and I crank up the resistance, and I work that way because around here it's all flat. There's hardly a rise. When I check my watch and I get back, I gained 7 feet in elevation in 3 hours. So it's not. So it's part of that is just training. Let's face it, I'm gonna be sitting on that bike saddle for a long time. Part's just getting my butt ready, just because I'm gonna be
Oh,
on
yeah,
it for
yeah,
for anywhere, I guess, 5 to 8 hours a day, depending
yeah.
on the mileage and the weather and any breaks we take. And part of it is just making sure that um, that I'm not overtraining, that which is something that I tend to do. Kirk Bauer used to get on me all the time for overtraining because it leads to injuries. And we have weekly Zoom meetings with our team. And a few weeks ago, there was an exercise physiologist that's worked with Shawn, and he came on, and he knows her, but he doesn't know me. He knows she trains very hard, but he doesn't know anything about me. And he said something to Shawn that really just right into me there. And he says, "You need to go into this ride undertrained and underprepared. This is not a race, and don't go in so overtrained that your body starts to break down." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Because Shawn and Jesse, I'm trying to tell them, I'm trying to make sure and encourage them that I'm training, I'm gonna be ready. This is a big thing, but I'm there. I'm in 100%. And they're like, "Steve, we get it. We understand. You're gonna be fine. This is a long ride." But when the way that guy phrased it, go in undertrained and underprepared, and you will work on it as you go through. And it just kind of clicked that the way he phrased it and said, "Like, oh, okay. All right. That makes sense. I'm going to stop riding my bike. I'm going to stop running 10 miles a day and ride my bike 20, 30 miles a day. And I'm just going to kind of stay in shape, not try to crush this to where I'm, 6, 7 hours a day working out. I'm going to get that for the next every day for the next 2 months."
Sure,
So
absolutely.
yeah, that one really kind of hit home.
You mentioned the elevation changes. What I don't know what I think you said like 7 to 10 feet on your bike
Yeah.
there, but
Right.
Boston Marathon has Heartbreak Hill, I think it's called. What is your Heartbreak Hill on this coast to coast journey? What's going to be your nemesis? There's got to be a one point that you're just not looking forward to.
I think the state of Colorado.
The entire state of
Yeah,
Colorado.
this Colorado is going to be tough. Missouri is going to be very, very much rolling hills going through there. If the wind is blowing east, I'm really looking forward to Kansas,
Yeah,
because I think
right.
the whole state of Kansas, if I remember right, is about the 7 to 10 feet of elevation change of where my part of Arizona. And so as long as the wind's not blowing in our face, we can make some pretty good time. Um, but the hills are a challenge for me as a double amputee, because it's hard to generate a lot of power. It's hard to stand because then my leg starts that back and forth movement in my socket. No matter how great my socket is, and it is great, Mike. Just making, there's no issues with the sockets. There's no, it's still hard to stand because my leg will physically start moving back and forth inside the socket when I stand, because it just creates another another point of movement. I lost my train of thought there, but it just creates more movement on the bike versus where, because I don't have an ankle, the ankle's fixed obviously on the talio, and so where my leg physically ends will start moving inside, front to back in the socket if I stand too much. And it's just it's going to be learning how to spin. I
Hmm.
mean, just keep the bike moving. And Jesse and I were talking about the other day, and I have to be honest with myself that if there's times where I just can't make something, I may just have to suck it up and maybe uh, hop in the truck. I mean, maybe I ride 99% of this ride, if that's the case, because or maybe I just go off the bike and push it up the hill for a little bit. But
Sure.
steep hills are tough because I don't generate the power. I lose power because I'm in prosthetics,
Right.
and that's just the nature of it. I know there are riders out there that do a great job, but I'm not by any means professional. And this is just kind of an average guy going out there and trying to ride up a big hill, big mountain in Colorado. I'm looking forward to the view.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the
Well, you can't
views
look at the
of
view.
that.
You're going to be talking and communicating with the team member. You
But at
can't.
least I'm in the back. I
Oh,
get to
okay.
I get an
Just
overview.
don't say, look, I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to be a beautiful
Yeah.
country to go through, I think. But
Sean, when we were riding in Tucson, Sean didn't lose her vision until obviously she was in her late 30s or mid 30s. And so she still knows what things are. So we can
sure.
describe when we're riding, she's like, tell me what you see.
Yeah.
And, it's almost a little emotional. It is for me because, there are obviously things we take for granted. We're like, hey, look at that. We're like, oh, no, Sean, but she doesn't
Yeah.
take it as we're not being insensitive or anything. It's just that we're excited about something. So she wants us to tell her what we're excited about. So in her brain, she can see it and be excited about it as well, the way she gets
Yeah.
excited about it.
Yeah.
So it is like you said, we have to be, we're going to have great views. And I want to try to make sure that as a friend that I tell Sean the country that we're riding through, because
Yeah.
she will have her own mental image of what we're seeing.
What she recalls.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. You talked about the sockets and the variables. I mean, we deal with it as amputees every day, just the
Yeah,
breakdown, perspiration, things like that. But you're going to be dealing with wind, weather, heat, cold fluctuations. It's going to be very interesting. And obviously, you're going to have backup, liners and sleeves or whatever you need. But
yeah.
breaking it down, what are you going to average per day? What do you need to average per day? I mean, with the variables I just mentioned, it's going to be tough to plan. It's you might get a rainstorm or something that'll ground you, but ultimately, what does that look like per
Well,
day?
since we're gonna have no issues and everything was gonna be amazing and perfect,
Perfect. Yep.
it's I think our average right now, if we follow our route, is 83 miles a day, with a long day being about 113. We hit 100, I think, 5 or 6 times. I think is the plan, because we've been making some adjustments to the route, because as we've gotten deeper into looking at, sometimes it's dirt roads, and we're on street bikes or road bikes with 23 millimeter tires. That might not be the best avenue for us. So we've had to make some adjustments. Jesse's been working super hard. I laid out an initial route, and Jesse has, or Kevin Carr and I laid out an initial route, and Jesse's really been diving deep into the particulars of it and making some adjustments. And I think it's going to do us well, because we're not going to get to somewhere and be like, oh my God, the next 8 miles is on dirt and gravel. We're on street bikes. How do we find a way around this? So um, there are going to be some long days. I've apologized to everybody in advance that my liners are going to stink.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to bring obviously several sets. That way I can wear a set and wash them, and they'll be drying. And I'll have another set to put on when I get done. That way I can instantly, as soon as we get done, basically change liners. I just kind of feel bad for whoever's in the RV on a daily basis. Maybe
No,
when they
don't feel bad.
stop,
You're out there
just
doing all the
instantly,
work.
just instantly put them on stands and put them outside.
That'll free
Um,
up some space in there for you, though.
right, and
They'll want to
so
get out of there.
but so you're going to look at that, knee sleeves. I mean, let's face it. I hope not, but I've fallen a couple times training. Or all of a sudden something happens and I don't get my foot out of the toe or out of the clips in time. And you rip a knee sleeve, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I got to change a knee sleeve, because now with the knee sleeve ripped, you're losing suction, and you start to get pistoning and things like
Yeah.
that. So I want to make sure. I've been wearing Ottobock knee sleeves for years, and they're tough. But when you crash on a bike on your knee, and you got carbon fiber underneath it, carbon fiber wins that fight
Yeah.
90% of the
Asphalt's
time.
tougher, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you snatch this or smash this sleeve between a the asphalt and carbon fiber, and it's just that the
Wow.
sleeve's going to
Yep.
lose.
Yep.
So I'm taking extra sleeves. I'm taking several sets of liners, and I am only going to take the one set of legs. And that's something I had to learn how to do, was just like I said, my first race, we had folks carry an extra set of prosthetics, because we did not know what it was going to be like. And since then, normally I usually travel with 2 sets of legs, just for the fact that if I run in some, a lot of times, there's leather on the insides, because the leg has changed, and so sockets were made, and they can be a little stinky. And so I always have like a clean set of legs to wear afterwards. I think Aaron got lost there. So oh wait, are you back?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. I lost you.
So now it's all me. So there was Aaron's back. Okay.
Hey, can you answer some questions if we open it up for questions here?
I would love to.
Okay, let me see if we have anything. Kayla, Audrey, do we have some questions for Steve? From Melissa, Steve, how long before you were starting to walk again? So post limb loss, post surgery. I think you mentioned it earlier, but how many months was it until you're taking your first steps with prosthetics?
I took my first steps. It's funny. The day I got my very first set of legs, I actually walked out of the prosthetist clinic, and I walked to the car, but then I couldn't walk. When I got home, I think I was just so hyper and so excited. That was in January of 2010, and then January 10th is when I started physical therapy, and I started walking kind of more around the house. Like, I remember I walked in to get a haircut with nothing. My mom was there, so I walked in without a walker, without a cane, in probably March, where I was comfortable. So it took me about 2 months, but I also had 2 months of just letting the incisions heal and the swelling start to go down. And I met a new amputee the other day, and he was really excited because he looks at my prosthetics, and they're fairly small on the bottom, where his were still that initial first set where they're just really big, because his limb is still really swollen. And he was like, "Oh, your limbs, your sockets are so small." It's like, and yours will be too.
Right,
So
you'll get there.
From Melissa, yeah, you'll get there. If it's you or if it's a loved one that's wondering how long it'll be, it'll take a couple months. I mean, you got to let your leg heal so you don't tear it up trying to go too fast. So just be patient with it and let it heal. That way you hopefully reduce the chances of any setbacks by
Absolutely.
rushing things. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other question? Our next question, and obviously you're going to have to manage your fluid and atrophy, during this whole thing. This is from Victor F. You've climbed mountains, you've hiked, you ride, you've run races on other continents. In addition to this upcoming ride, what are some of your things you want to conquer?
As far as I know, no double has ever run all 7 continents. Last year, I had races, and obviously 2020, we should just never have to think about that year again. Well, I say that's in jest, because there was a lot of bad and a lot of good last year.
Yeah.
But I had races in China, Chile, and Tanzania that were canceled. I really want to do all 7 continents, and so that would have given me 6, which would have just left Antarctica. There is a world marathon challenge that they do 7 races on 7 continents in 7 days, and that's what I want to do. And if all goes well, I don't see it happening. It's about 42 grand, I think, because it's a chartered flight around the world, basically. No hotels, no breaks. You literally fly, get off, run a race, get back on the plane, fly to the next continent, run a race, get back on the plane. But it's scheduled to run in Antarctica on my 52nd birthday next year. And so I would love to, I'm not going to set any records. I'm not going to be a world-class athlete. I love to eat way too much to do that. That's a lifestyle that I don't know, but I love to challenge myself. I keep saying with some friends of mine, Steve Conley, who we climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with, every time we get together, it is to just absolutely abuse our bodies for marathons, doing the Grand Canyon. We say that one day we're going to do a movie marathon. And so for Victor, I think my answer there is to be the first double. And if someone's done it, please tell me. But I can't find a record of a double ever doing all 7 continents. But that's been my personal goal for a couple of years now. And on just a far, looking way down, I want to row from San Diego to Hawaii.
Wow.
Why not? Why not?
Well, incredible. Next question. Do we have more questions? Mary H says, what are you looking forward to the Choose to See adventure most? What are you most looking forward to? The finish line? Dipping your
I think
tires?
I think that'll be pretty neat. I think the awareness that we're wanting to bring, that it's not just that we're doing this to show that we can't be stopped. Let's face it. We're facing challenges that are um, physical and mental, and there are people sometimes that are told you can't do things anymore because of your disability. So I'm looking forward to the finish line, but I'm looking forward to I think every day getting off that bike seat. No, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to finishing, showing friends and family and people that I've never met, that we've never met, that look at Shawn. Shawn, I can't imagine losing my vision. And the fact that Shawn, like she said, it's a long time to be scared. But I'm looking forward to helping Shawn achieve this goal, with Jesse. And that's a good question, but it's a hard answer.
Yeah.
Because
The
I think
journey, I think that
so.
you're
I
looking
think
forward to the journey, it's
yeah.
just,
I think that's a good way to put it, Aaron. I mean, you've had to challenge yourself. You've had things that you look forward to. I'm looking forward to being part of a team again. Does that make sense? Where it's not just me going out and running, a half marathon somewhere. I'm looking forward to being part of a team again, where we do rely on each other. We do, it's like having a mission. And after serving the military and being a police officer for almost my entire adult life, it's something I've missed, and I
yeah.
enjoy being part of a team. And so I'm looking forward to that part of it again. We're going to argue. We're going to complain. We're going to throw water bottles at each other, hopefully empty. It's just because that's what happens in a team. And the
Yeah.
next day you go out and you push yourself and you say, one more hour or 3 more miles, whatever the case is, and the team gets to your next objective. We're not trying to take this all in one bite. We're
Right.
trying to, it's little sections and make it manageable.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to remember that. I've been part of a team where there are people that look at it as a race,
Hmm.
and by the time we finished that particular event, we were all on the same page. But we all
Yeah.
came from different backgrounds. We were all amputees, but we moved at a different clip.
Yeah.
And by the end of that, when you look at video of us at the end, it was almost like we were marching.
Sure.
We developed a rhythm together, whereas before we used to spread out, and there'd be, from a few hundred yards to half a mile, separating the person in front and the person in back, to where we were literally just not quite marching, but close to it. We got into a rhythm, and that was a cool thing about being part of a team. So I'm looking forward to being part of a team again for this ride.
Very cool. Do we have another question? That might be it.
All right.
Let's talk about how the viewers today can support. I would imagine funding is needed for everything we've talked about: food, transportation, lodging, 2-3 months of overnight stays,
Yeah.
parts for the vehicles, parts for the bikes and things like that. Is it choosingtosee.org is the foundation?
Choosingtosee.org. It is. Shawn actually founded that, and it's choosingtosee.org. And there's a donate button on there for people that want to donate. The other thing that we've talked about as a team is we're really looking forward to people joining us. If we're going through your town, if you ride with us for a block or for an hour, come be part of our team. Come join us. Now, we can't have this big caravan to where we're a traffic hazard and we're putting people in danger. But if people want to join us for a block or for an hour or for a day, I mean, that is going to raise awareness, because let's face it, my legs, I'm sure your legs are the same way. Unless I'm, before I retired, I wear shorts everywhere. Wearing pants is a hassle.
Yeah.
Yesterday was our 4th anniversary, so I was like, I'm gonna surprise her. I'm gonna wear pants. So when I got there, we met at a restaurant when my wife Kelly got off work, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're in pants," And it was, but these legs start a lot of conversations. There are so many kids. I've heard the word robot legs for 12 years, and the first time I was kind of like, oh my God, I just started laughing. And parents are just mortified. Like,
Oh
no,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
don't point,
yeah.
don't ask. Mom, what's wrong with his legs? Dad, what's going on? And it's look at that guy. And it's to this day, I got, some little kid pointing me out at the parking lot at the grocery store the other day. So it if people join us, because I love the fact that kids will ask questions. I will take my leg off and hand it to them, so they're not afraid, because eventually they're going to see someone different in their classroom
Sure.
or in their neighborhood, and they need to know how to handle that. And parents, let your kids ask the questions. Let them
Yeah.
point at me. Let them ask questions. Let them acknowledge me. Don't shush them and put your hand over their mouth and drag them away, because then I look like a monster, and
Well,
that's not what I want to be.
yeah, I wear
Yeah.
shorts all the time too, and it's great when you do throw on a pair of pants. It's always one of the adults that you haven't seen for a while, or they'll say, "I haven't seen you in pants in a long time," and it's like everybody else around is like,
Yeah, everyone turns
"Whoa."
heads. Whoa,
So
who are these people? Yeah, yeah.
that's great.
I have been through the same thing. Yeah.
But choosingtosee.org, our Ottobock Stewardship Committee, which I'm a part of, has committed financially. I hope the viewers can step up a little bit and throw some money your way and support this incredible journey that you're going to be on. We are looking forward to you making it to Louisville. As you mentioned earlier, we have a distribution center in Louisville, and our colleagues are hoping to throw a carb party for you guys. You're going to need it by the time you get there. But people on the line, please go to choosingtosee.org to find out more about this incredible undertaking that's gonna happen here within the next month, to follow the journey and certainly support it. Steve, I can't thank you enough for taking the time today to talk to us and the audience and the colleagues at Ottobock about this about you, your life, your background, and this incredible journey that you're taking on.
Aaron, it was a pleasure. I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to updating everybody as we go along. We're going to put little updates. I'll put on my Facebook. I'm sure Shawn will have it on hers, and obviously the Ottobock is going to keep up with us. Choosing to See is going to. So we'll be updating multiple venues or multiple platforms, and so it's going to be. I think, like you said, a friend of mine named Eric Ellis that we climbed Kilimanjaro with. And he says, if you look at something as an adventure, it becomes one. And that's how I'm looking at this. This is my next, I get to be part of a great adventure.
You're raising the bar for the
I
entire
hope so.
community.
I hope so.
Well, best to you, to Shawn, the entire team on this adventure, Stephen, and I hope to connect with you soon.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Aaron.
Bye-bye.
Bye.